Hello everyone and welcome back to Lick Library. My name's Lee Fuge, and in this video today we're going to be checking out 5 Tony Iommi riffs. I'm going to be reacting to those riffs and then we're going to be talking about why they're such great riffs and what we can learn from them. Tony Iommi is the lead guitar player for the group Black Sabbath, one of the bands, and him particularly one of the guitar players, credited with the invention of what became heavy metal. So Tony Iommi is a great guitar player. He's known for his incredible riffs that are just full of power and full of groove. There's so many roots he laid down in his early playing with what we sort of know as modern metal. A lot of that can be traced back to those early Sabbath records. So I'm going to be talking about my 5 favourite Sabbath riffs, and we're just going to break them down a little bit as we go through the video. So we're going to kick off with the title track from their first album, Black Sabbath. This is such a cool one. This is a live version I'm using where he does this really cool kind of ambient but very discordant sounding guitar intro. So this is probably one of the evilest sounding guitar riffs ever written, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Once you hear it, this is a cool intro. This isn't actually on the studio version. And there's a young Ozzy Osbourne. You can tell this is very early on in their career. So evil, and just... You'd never heard anything like that in 1970. Okay, what a cool riff. So, 3 notes. G power chord, the G note on the 5th fret of the D string, and then the 4th fret of the A string. That's the note that makes this evil. But what he's doing in the first part of that riff is he's doing a trill, which is a constant hammer on and pull off between that and the 5th fret. So what we're doing here is we're outlining a G power chord, but instead of playing the 5th on the A straight away, we're actually going to the 4th on the A. This is an interval known as a flat 5, which is also known as a diminished note. And we play this in context with the G notes, we get that really kind of... It puts you on edge straight away because it's not a sound that we associate with being a resolved sound in Western music. We expect to hear... We expect to hear that. But if we drop the 5th, it becomes very, very evil. So obviously Sabbath chose that note to open their first album with. In the verse of the song, it actually plays the same riff but slightly cleaner, and instead of doing the trill, he does actually just hang on that flat 5. Very, very kind of uncomfortable sounding. So what we can learn from that is we can use weird intervals in rock music and metal music to create tension. So if you're playing a chord, like a G5, maybe consider dropping the 5th. It might not sound that pleasant, but let's say we're playing a riff that's just going to use some power chords, we might throw one of those kind of diminished style chords in there. And you can get some really cool, very uncomfortable sounding sounds from that. Second riff we're going to check out is my favourite Iommi riff, which is from the track Children of the Grave. This must have been insanely heavy at the time, because what we need to remember when we look back at these things retrospectively is that in the 70s, heavy metal didn't exist. So at this point, this was the first time people were hearing music this heavy. This is such a cool riff. It's got so much groove to it. It's got that cool build up, and when this kicks in, it's just got so much power. This is definitely one to go crazy to. Not many notes, but it's just got it. He's hardly playing anything. So this riff is actually in a different tuning. So I'm in standard tuning, And this entire record that this track is on was actually tuned down to C sharp standard. So we're actually quite a bit lower on the record than what I'm actually going to play this. But it's a really cool riff. It's all based around this kind of pedaling E note. And I'm playing the octave of that note on the 7th fret of the A string there. And then those two big power chords. Now you'll notice Iommi plays all his power chords for this on the low E and A string. There is an easier way we could play the same power chords by dropping down a string, but he always plays his power chords on the lower strings because it gives a thicker sound. Really great riff, very simple but a really powerful groove. Now what we can learn from this is the fact that we don't have to jam-pack riffs with tons of notes to make them have a groove or be really heavy. There's a lot of space in that riff and he's letting a lot of those chords just ring out. There's a ton of space, especially when you start moving up to this. Even though the track is quite fast-paced, by letting those chords ring, you don't really lose any of the pace of the track. So if you are finding yourself cramming notes in to make your riffs heavier, don't. Pull some out and let some things ring, because the whole track will push it along, like you're hearing in this one. The third riff is a really cool slow groove riff. It's from a track called Lord of this World. I couldn't find a good live version for this, so we've got a bit of a bootleg one going on here, but you get the gist. This one's also in C sharp standard tuning, so when I play it at the end, you're not going to hear the same pitch, but we'll talk about the riff anyway. So the quality of this one is not as good as the other ones, but it's a great riff nonetheless. It's also got that evil kind of quality to it. And that classic kind of Sabbath sludgy groove. What a cool riff. So again, really simple. Iommi doesn't play anything he doesn't need to play. Very simple there. I'm just playing the 5th and 7th frets of the A string with the open E. That nice drone is kind of created there. That gives it a bit of a sludgy feel. And then just some single notes. 5, 4, 5, 7. And then down to the E string. 7, 6, 7, 7. That's all there is to that riff. Again, another masterclass in groove, and you don't have to just jam it full of notes. Keep it simple, keep it sparse, but he's still got that kind of sludgy feel. And I definitely think having those kind of droning notes really helps with that. Obviously, like I said, it's even more sludgy because he's tuned down essentially like a tone and a half from standard tuning as well. So that's going to give it a lot more of that kind of low-end boom. And he's playing with a lot more gain than I am. Tony would also use really thin strings on his SG as well. So you get a kind of extra sludginess from the strings not having much tension in them. So there's a bit of a kind of a looseness to the sound of the riffs as well. So that's a big part of the Sabbath sound. Tune it down, get some thin strings on there, and just keep that kind of sludgy thing going on. What a fun riff. All right, so I'm actually going to interrupt my own video here and insert another section because there's a riff I actually forgot to talk about, and this is a fantastic riff. This is for the track Symptom of the Universe. This is one of those riffs that is kind of the early template for what kind of became really heavy metal in the 80s. So when we have bands like Iron Maiden and Metallica with those kind of galloped root notes, this riff kind of started that, in my opinion. So this is a great riff. This is typical Sabbath, but at the same time you can really see how this riff became a key riff in the development of the sound of heavy metal. So let's check this one out. There it is. It's that great kind of chugging low E sound. Here come the drums. I mean, you know, we can really hear how that kind of became what heavy metal turned into. So that riff is actually quite simple to play as well, but I mean, as a riff, that's so powerful. He's basically just playing a bunch of low E notes palm muted and then some power chords. And that really is the recipe for most heavy metal stuff that we kind of know and love. That classic 80s heavy metal sound that bands like Maiden, Priest, Metallica all kind of pioneered. It's all based around some quite simple ideas that they would have gotten from bands like Sabbath. So the riff is actually quite simple, like I said. But very, very powerful. So to play this, I'm just playing 7 open low E strings, all palm muted, before hitting this B flat power chord twice on the 6th fret of the low E string. And then the second time is exactly the same thing. We're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 open strings, the E power chord on the A string 7th fret, and then back to that B flat. Really simple, 2 chords and open strings. Now that is a great template for heavy metal there. So played at full speed. So what can we learn from that riff? Well, we can use that as songwriters to come up with our own heavy metal riffs. So let's just say we're going to play a chugged along low E string, palm muted, and we're just going to pick a tempo. So our tempo is going to be this. Get that consistent chug going, and then throw in some other power chords rooted from the E and A string whenever you feel like, and wherever you feel like, to come up with different combinations and different metal riffs. Really great, really effective. Find a tempo and then just throw in some different chords. That's a great riff to learn, to teach you the basics of heavy metal riff songwriting. 5th and final Sabbath riff we're going to check out is War Pigs. The verse riff is quite cool because it's got a really interesting timing thing going on with the drums. There's a very specific drum hit that you need to listen for in order to nail that timing. But the riff I'm really focusing on is the riff that comes after that. So let's check this one out. This is just iconic Sabbath anyway. You gotta listen for that open hi-hat, and there's 2 hits after it. Really hard to play with the band, this one, because if your drummer misses that accent, the whole thing's gone. So this part's quite simple. He's just doing a D to an E power chord on the A string. Nothing too crazy there. He's actually playing it on the E string, sorry. Iommi always plays his power chords rooted from the E string. But here's the riff we're talking about. So again, that Iommi space is there. So we're playing D to E, nice and simple, but we're keeping that tight. And then, see that chromatic run again? Always with those chromatics. So doing D to E, and then we're chromatically walking G back to E. And then he's doing this kind of double stop with heavy vibrato there on the 12th of the G and B. A lot of space, and again, like with the Children of the Grave riff, things are just ringing out. The band are playing really fast-paced, but you don't need to. You can kind of pull back a little bit and let that kind of happen. And the second time he does this trill thing, which, if I remember right, is... pretty sure it's the 12 to the 14 on the D string. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that one. And then the third time is the same as the first, I believe. So it's a really cool riff. There's a lot of space in there, but again, it kind of maintains that groove. It doesn't sound that groovy without the drums. When you hear the drums and the bass underneath it, they kind of fill the gaps in the riff. classic Sabbath, tons of groove, tons of space. Again, from that we can learn, don't cram everything in. I mean, I think that's really the big takeaway that we can take to all 5 of these riffs. If you want to learn from Tony Iommi, don't overload your riffs with notes. You simply don't need to. You can write really effective, cool, heavy rock and metal riffs without playing 1001 notes. You can let chords ring, let the rhythm section of the band kind of drive it along. That's what Sabbath do, and obviously keep it sludgy as well. It's really fun stuff to play because it's not that technically demanding. It's really more about the groove. The groove is the hard thing to nail down with Sabbath. Gotta have your groove on point. You don't need to be the most technically advanced player to play this stuff. You just have to have a good ear for groove and a really sort of great sense of rhythm. Thank you so much for watching this video on 5 really cool Tony Iommi riffs that we're reacting to and talking about. Now, I know we've only limited this to 5 riffs, and with Tony Iommi being the riff writer that he is, I'm sure there's plenty of riffs that you guys are thinking I've missed out from this lesson, and I agree. There are loads of Sabbath riffs that I also think we could have talked about, but then we would have ended up with a 3-hour-long video. So what are your favourite Iommi riffs? Throw them down below in the comments. Which riffs did I miss out? Let me know, because I already know a few off the top of my head that I think I should have talked about as well as these 5, but Iommi has so many iconic riffs that we can learn from that, like I said, we could literally talk for hours about the impact he has had on guitar playing. So throw your favourite Iommi moments down below in the comments. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and subscribe to the Lick Library channel because there's a ton more free videos just like this one. If there are any artists you'd like to see us reacting to in this way, please throw them down below in the comments as well and we will check those out. Head over to licklibrary.com and sign up and access the library of lessons if you want to take your guitar playing to that next level. There's so much cool content over there, from really basic stuff through to really advanced concepts and song and album breakdowns and everything in between. Thank you so much for watching. As always, look forward to hearing what your favourite Iommi riffs are down below in the comment section. Thank you guys. See you soon.